Welcome back. It's Thursday, which means it's time to take a dive into WSU's matchup this weekend and the three things they need to do to beat Colorado. As we go along in this segment, vote on your Creme 2 app on whether or not the Cougs will leave Martin Stadium victorious this Saturday. This first key is something that goes for both sides of the ball. The Cougs need to get some turnovers this game. They haven't forced a turnover, meaning a fumble or an interception, since the UCLA game. And believe it or not, they only caused one turnover in that contest, an interception from Skylar Thomas. Meanwhile, on offense, WSU had 8 of their 10 turnovers this season between the UCLA and Utah games. Now, the offense did get better last game with no turnovers against ASU, but to just put this in perspective, over Pac-12 play, WSU has had 8 turnovers on offense and only 1 caused by the defense. Unfortunately for Wazoo, Colorado is not a team that is turnover prone. Outside of Oregon, one of the best defenses in the country, the Ducks caused 4 interceptions against Colorado last week, but the Buffaloes haven't thrown a crazy amount of interceptions outside of that. In terms of fumbles, they've had 6 this season, but they've only had 2 recovered by the opposition. So this might not be an easy task, but it's still an emphasis for the defense this week. Now let's take a look at the 2 things Colorado is especially weak in that the Cougs can take advantage of. We're going to start with what the Cougs defense can help out with. Colorado ranks 83rd in the country in converting in the red zone, scoring just 79% of the time. But where it gets worse is that they only score a touchdown 50% of the time in the red zone. So just to break this down a little more, the squad has 12 red zone TDs this season, 7 field goals made, and 5 times they plain came out with 0 points after being inside their opponent's 20-yard line. The good news for Washington State is that guess what? They are allowing their opponents to score well in the red zone 79% of the time. That seems like a favorable matchup for the WSU defense there. Now let's take a look on where WSU can attack Colorado's defense. Remember how I said WSU's defense has a favorable matchup in the red zone? Well, the WSU offense just has a favorable matchup all over. Colorado's defense is allowing 307 yards passing per game. Survey says that ranks Colorado 124th in the country in passing yards allowed out of 130 teams. That is not a recipe for success against a WSU team that ranks 1st in the country with 453 passing yards per contest. But I will say this, who ranks 129th in the country in passing yards allowed? Oh yeah, that's UCLA, and we know how that one ended. Regardless, Anthony Gordon should have a field day out there come Saturday. Another point of emphasis this week for WSU has been finishing out halves, as WSU only had 10 points between the second and fourth quarters compared to ASU's 31 points over those 2 periods last week. We should see some improvement there, at least offensively, against the Buffaloes. Colorado and WSU kick off at 4 p.m. on Saturday in Pullman. The game will be broadcast on ESPNU. We'll have full coverage in our 10 and 11 p.m. shows. Looks like you guys think that Colorado is going to fall in Pullman.